Loredana, what is the original self and why do so many people forget it?
Well, the original self, it's that part of us, that awareness, I may call it, that we are not aware of. Because since the early days, we are taught to learn to become someone, to fit in, to be loved, to be accepted. And this is where this original self, it's not that it is silenced, but we forget about it. And we kind of leave it, in a back or in a corner somewhere behind. And because life basically rewards adaptation, not authenticity. And this is what the inner journey is about, finding your own original self. Because you see, I'm not talking about an ego upgrade. I'm talking about that part of us that observes, that answers, and that it's basically giving you the choice. It's not reacting, as we are used to usually respond. It is not from that part of us that it's the wisdom silenced. It's therefore more difficult to listen, to find it, because it's much easier to hear your thoughts, okay, that are constantly there in your brain and your mind and constantly busy, rather than staying in your silence. How many people these days in this new modern society have time to stay for at least 30 seconds in their own silence? Well, if you want to be part of the real world, what is real? It will be the question. Find who your essence is. Start with the question that I already wrote about in my book, The Inner Journey. Who am I? Look in the mirror with honesty. But that honesty that you do not have to confess to anyone. And ask yourself from the depths of your soul, who am I for real? And take a look. And then listen. I promise you the answers will come. And they will not come from your mind. If you are real, if you're honest, because this requires presence. So come to my Inner Journey Academy and find out, remember if you want, unveil who this original self for you is. The one that will set you on your own journey.
Is there ever a time in the life of somebody that they act from their original self, so to say? Maybe even unplanned, because now we're talking about, okay, look in the mirror and ask yourself the question. So this is like a planned activity where you go and you do this. Is there a time, because we're talking about remembering, when we do this just because? Is there ever a time where we act from our original self, so to say?
You're asking basically if there is a specific period where subconsciously maybe we are acting from this?
Yes. So basically, when we're looking in the mirror and we will ask the question and then something will come back, we will have an experience. But that experience, so my question is, did we ever have this experience before? Maybe when we were a child or when we were playing or when we are doing something, or this is something new?
It's not at all new. It's just unfamiliar. Because when you are, I just mentioned it before, from the very first days of our life, we are taught and we learn to become part of a society that performs by certain rules. So who am I for real doesn't necessarily matter that much, because in this modern life, modern society where you have to perform and you're always put under this competitive rule of being the best, but not the best version of your own self, but the best in comparison with the others, then you kind of do not have time. And this is what everybody says to me from my clients. You do not have time to find yourself. You do not have time to originate that, I may say, authenticity. And yes, there are moments when, like a volcano, I may say, this original self outbursts. But this, it's rather categorized into patterns that become anxiety, that become the borderline illnesses, I may call them, because there's no illness per se. So if there are moments like that, yes, when you are in love, truly, because love, it's everything that is. When you let go to the real you to feel. So it is not about thinking, it's rather about feeling. And feeling comes as a partnership, I may say, between the thought and the emotion. Because who saw a thought? You cannot see the thought without feeling it, emotionally involved. So this is where the two brains, come together into this marriage. And if you want, the physics now, the quantum physics now, it's telling us about this reality that we do not see, we do not perceive, but it exists. So this marriage between thought and emotion basically gives birth to the feeling that creates this electromagnetic field that attracts everything that is around us. And therefore, you may end up, with question marks. Why do I attract people that are not quite what I want in my life? Well, because you are focusing, and where your focus goes, where attention goes, this is where energy flows. And wherever you give this is what manifests, if you want. This is what you attract in your life.
How does changing your sense of self change the way your life unfolds?
But changing the sense of self, it's basically changing your perspective. Because you see, also the great teachers, the great masters of ancient worlds that we celebrate, also for Christmas these days, for Christians, great Jesus. I call him Sananta, Yeshua, if you want, because this was his real name. We call him Jesus, but it appeared as a name afterwards. His real name was Yeshua. So he taught us about a very simple thing, that if you are slapped by someone, turn the other cheek. Well, if I slap someone, it's not literally the slapping that he was referring to, but what happens when I slap somebody, okay? The cheek turns. So it means you change your perspective from where you are looking to into another angle, if you want. Yes, like in a camera. Okay. And this is when you simply take your sheep, your cows, your whatever, all your energy, all your thoughts, and you reverse to another perspective, seeing it from another angle. So this is when I stay away from giving advices to people, but I basically recommend, because I passed through it. It's my own experience. It's a lived experience, yeah? It's a lived thing, so I can say it to others. You can become a different you, this self, that we are talking about, when you change perspective. What does this mean? So it's my recommendation. You basically take off yourself, like sitting in the back chair, of the director of the movie. Don't be the actor of your own life all the time. Don't take things so from one angle. Become this director and see it from another perspective, maybe a global perspective, maybe from the left side, maybe from the right side, but let yourself see things also from different angles. And like this, you can also understand that it's not always about you being right or about somebody having something with you because it's something with you. Okay? See it from a global picture, and then things can become much more relaxed. And don't take them so personally.
In one sentence, finish this. Your identity is power when.
You're authentic.
How can numerology reveal aspects of your soul's purpose?
Ooh, I do not believe that there is a soul purpose necessarily, because soul purpose per se, it's a concept that it's so spiritualized, nowadays. And I want to go also from the perspective of the neuroscience. What is a soul purpose? Each and every one of us thinks that came in this world to have something to do, which may be or may not be necessarily the truth. We identify ourselves with what we are in terms of gender. And nowadays, the society turned into many more genders than what we basically see. So it's a training, if you want, that prepares us for seeing beyond the limits of our senses, of our five senses. So if we go and we analyze all these details, we understand that this life, this journey, if you want, it's in itself an experience. What is the purpose of it? Just to experience. If I go from a more energetic point of view, then what is with me on this earth might be a correct question, if I may say like that, but what is correct and what is not correct? What is truth in the end? And I don't want to become philosophical in here, because I would like to stay, within the boundaries of our cognition, let's put it like this. And when I bring back, into the question, the first part of the question, numerology, what we just said, what are numbers? We look at them, and that's why I mentioned about our senses, because we perceive numbers, or we look at numbers before perceiving them, just as simple figures. But each and every one of us has a perspective about a number. When I'm telling you 4, you will definitely associate a thought and an emotion instantly to a number. Maybe because from your past experience, from what you read, you already know what 4 may mean in numerology. But numerology in itself, even though it is not considered as a science, may not be necessarily a science. It's an ancient tool, I can say, that primes the brain. What are numbers? Numbers are principles. Numbers are, if you want, energies, like qualities that we can discover along our experience. The sooner the better. They are imprints, coordinates, or codes, if you want. Like I give you a location, okay? These are the longitude and these 2 coordinates from the geographical map, okay? So these codes, if I know them, if I know what they mean, they can help me. They can help me be the better version of myself every day in a way that it's much quicker, okay, than to find out all by myself, especially nowadays when everything is about speed, yes? But if you take it from the other point of view, numerology, it's not a simple thing that you learn in a course of 3 weeks, months, or years, okay? It is, and I wanted to say this, and I don't find the perfect word, to say how important it is to feel it. You do not have to learn necessarily, what this means. Just give yourself this chance to feel. What does this transmit to you? Because when we go beyond numbers, we can discover also why they were so important. What made that human being, that culture to discover them? They were symbols. But they were symbols for what? Because in the end, it's the route that will always lead us to a better understanding, never to an answer. As Socrates said, the more questions you put, more questions it will be revealed, okay, in a list, to you. So numbers, to me, they speak about numerology. They speak about shapes. They speak about, or they give me the perspective of understanding the multiverse itself, how we are shaped. Do you know that, for example, the organs inside of our body, they have a certain shape? Why are the lungs the shape that they are? Maybe because they fit better in that shape in this thoracical box, okay? Why do they fit better? Because somebody must have calculated it and put it there. Who is this? Well, the greatest architect, whomever can believe in whatever, okay? But we are built by certain codes, by certain shapes, and respecting very clear rules. Nothing happens without a reason, and nothing is put there by chance. So, what I would say as a conclusion to this question is that we should rather look into things that come to us, like numerology, like astrology, with a deeper voice, with this intuitive voice that I call the original self.
Do these numbers that define us, there are two parts of it. There's, say, the numbers that are ours in a way, our birth date, our, I don't know, the time we came to this earth, or the location, or things like that. And then there's numerology outside of us, so to say, which is the, the numbers that we see every day, or that we choose to see, or we choose to use. So there are two parts, right? How does it help me to know from a numerological perspective, for instance, the significance of my birth date?
I will tell you also from the neuroscience perspective.
Mm-hmm.
When you observe numbers outside of you, like maybe the car plate or on a clock, and you see 1111, 2222, or whatever numbers you see, when you start looking at them based again on your experience already, they prime your brain. You can take it also as a training. If you want to be much more aware, of what is happening with you, a step ahead, I may say, you can help yourself to prime your own brain with observing things. And what does this mean to you? Observe your thought when you see this. Synchronicities, they are called, yes. And this will help you stay more focused to you, to bring you back to the now present. So this is one aspect. It's making you much more aware of who you really are. Okay? It brings you in the now, which is the only time that matters and exists. The other side that you were talking about, my private personal numerological code, I may say, of course it is important, because when I know what my birthday means, these are, if you want, the coordinates of the place, the starting place of my journey. When you want to go somewhere, you need to go from where you start in order to put the location to take you there. So, isn't it the most important day to know? Isn't it the most important coordinate? And based on that, you can have tools, if you want, that can help you navigate. It's one thing to navigate in darkness, okay, and here and there to have, helpers, or to navigate with a full light, full speed, and to have also tools that help you, okay? And guides next to you that will tell you, okay, do not go there because I've been there, and you may take, right or left, and it will be, shorter cut or whatever. So this is what this code, or knowing this code, made to you. I can give you an example. You can give me your date of birth, and we can extract from that day-to-day information.
Okay, so I'll do that. First of all, you're saying, basically what you're saying is, whatever code we have there, like it's in other numerologists may say life path or things like that, they're just the starting point. So this is why free will exists. You can go and you can do and you can experiment whatever, because there's no purpose in itself that you need to do X, Y, or Z. But it's important to know where you're starting from, because if you don't know where you're starting from, then you're always going to be in the dark. Amazing. So, okay, let's do this exercise then. My birthday is 30 July, so 3007, 1985.
30.
Yeah.
Okay, so a 3 and a 0. What does this mean? We are taught in numerology, and I'm not talking about somebody. We are taught because this was left, okay, by some cultures. So it is said that numbers exist. In Romanian, we have, a term for numbers and another term for numbers. I may not translate it in English, but we know that there are two significant distinguished words, for that. And what
Yeah.
do I mean? When you have, for example, numbers like 30, 3 and 0, okay, you reduce them to a 9-based code, let's put it like this. So I will add 3 with 0, and it will give me the significant code that I may apply in numerology in the, let's say, European known numerology, because there are many other numerologies, let's say like that, the Vedic one, the Chaldean ones, and so on and so forth. If somebody's interested, they may see it, on my course, on my site. But I'm talking about the one that it's well known by our West society, let's put it like this. So a 3, I will remain with a 3. What does this 3 tell me? If I am to comparing to the tarot, the 3 gives me the Empress card. Okay, so instantly I know already that I am destined to become the Empress. Now I have the tool. I have the choice, as you said before. What do I have to do in order to become that? Because you see, here we have always the choice of doing something good for me or something that is not that good for me. What do I choose? If I am consciously enough, I always will choose the better version, isn't it? That will take me there where I want. But if I am always acting with anxiety, with stress, under pressure, competitiveness, and all this stuff, maybe I will lose my point of view from what I would like to obtain. And I end up, into forgetting what I am destined to become, and I become somebody else. So a 3 predestines me, okay, by default, to become the Empress, to become the best that I can be, because I have the expressivity, because I have the way to understand the world, like a triangle, if you want. What is 3? Let's go even much more profound, into this, into the depths of the numerology. What is 3 in the geometry? If you are to think of a shape, what would be 3 in a shape, in a perfect shape? It would be the triangle, isn't it? So if I think about the triangle, it will be also instantly leading me to the Trinity, isn't it? So where is the Trinity, Matt? Well, if I go there into the religious box, and I will start looking for it, I will find that it's far beyond religious. Meaning, it's even much bigger than that. Kabbalah is talking about the tree of life. Hello, I have 3 in there. So I find so many codes, let's put it like that, and understandings that can come to me. And this is how I can prime my brain to tweaking, if you want, my mind, to stay on my path. What 3 means to me. And you said that is July. July is the number 7, isn't it? Representative, again, on the code of the 9 number, yeah? So what is 7? If I go to the 7, instantly my mind now, it takes me to the 7 wonders of the world. So 7 must be an important number, since also God itself in the Bible is described, that he made the world in 7 days. We have 7 days of the week. So 7 must be, per se, a very important number. What does this mean for me? I want to break it a little bit, this, in order for people to understand it, and not necessarily to be so imperative for them to go and learn. I want to teach you to open up your heart, your intuitive voice, to let it come out, to give it importance. Okay? So what would 7 be if it is a number that is specified also in the Bible? Maybe it is also important from that perspective. Maybe it means the relationship between a human soul or being to the source, no matter how you call it. Maybe 7 may mean intelligence, may mean beyond intellect. So what are the qualities of the 7? What should I learn? And why is this like a second number? Because the first is my birth date. Yeah, is the day. It's something that gives me like a card, when I present myself, yes, when I introduce myself. It's this. It's the 3. It's the Empress, as we said, yes, in one word, okay? Because it means a lot. It means ambition. It means a leadership. It means so much, the 3. But just to give you one word, okay? What would be the 7? Okay? 7, it's there like a second tool, like an assistant if you want, like someone that will always help me. So what helps me to become the empress that I am predestined to be? Well, intelligence, wisdom, okay? Using my intellect. So like God, so like the source, in that manner. And I will become empress. You understand how you can open up a little bit. And then you go to the number and take to the year of birth and take this number by number, but in pairs, 2 by 2, like 19, I suppose, 80,
85.
85. So 19, 1 plus 9, again, it's a 1. 85. What is 8 plus 5? Always add the numbers up until they reduct to one single digit. Okay, so if we are to explain a little bit about numbers in Romanian, we can have digits and numbers. Okay, a little bit forced, but just to have the understanding. So we use digits in numerology to understand. And I don't want to go here, to too much into the master numbers, because there are numbers, and I have just to mention them, that, for example, when they appear 11s, when they appear 22s, we do not necessarily add them to reduce them to one single digit, because they are the master numbers. They behave in a certain way. Yes, the energies that bring this codes to you. So I will leave you with this understanding. Okay? It's not necessarily needed for you to study, I don't know what. Let yourself feel, and you will find out the mystery box. This is what neurosciences does.
Okay, so basically, we're using this information about ourselves again so that this helps us in the path of remembering who we are, right? These are all tools that we're
Absolutely.
using.
I'm writing about it in my new thesis. My PhD thesis is I will say it just like a general title. It is the ritual and the neuroscience, or the marriage between the neuroscience and the rituals. And we can talk about it, a little bit further.
Amazing. You're talking a lot about priming the mind, right? And using numerology to prime the mind. Can we do a morning ritual, so to say, that is based on numerology that will help us, something simple, maybe a 30-second practice, a 1-minute practice that we can do each morning that will help us?
Exactly 30 seconds and even less. When you
Okay.
wake up in the morning, the tendency is to jump to your phone, see the hour, and eventually run for a walk. So for 30 minutes, I challenge you to stay still and to think about what day it is today. Simple, isn't it? So today we are at 29, for example. Let's give it, a try. So 29, first thing in the morning, I was thinking, what's a 29? 2 and 9 together. Okay, it's 11. Whoa, that's a number. It's a master number, okay? So what does this mean? If I am to reduce it to the single digit, it will give me a 2. So what does 2 mean, okay? If I go, into the perspective of the real world, 2 means always a balance, yeah? So I have to be a balanced lady. I have to use diplomacy. What is balance? It's diplomacy. So what's that tool that I may use today in order to push me forward, yeah? To give me this input of becoming the better version of myself? That's a simple question.
Why do so many people resist feeling? And what happens when you embrace emotion fully?
Well, we just mentioned it before. Since the early days of our lives, we are taught to be, to fit in, to be loved, to whatever, and etc. Yeah, and we are not necessarily encouraged to express our feelings. What people or what families are asking children, how do you feel? They don't even consider it necessary. Did you ever ask your kids, how do you feel? when I raise my voice? How do you feel when I'm not paying attention to you? How do you feel when I'm always texting? How do you feel? You never ask anybody this. So, especially in those years, when we develop, when we are raised in these 7 years, the very important 7 years of spending with family, yes, when the children, and it's not only 7, just to be clear about it, when the children and the brain, it's fully open. I like my mentor, Bob Proctor, and I will always mention him here. He had a way, to explain the brain, especially in the first years, of your life. He was always drawing it, like an open circle, explaining exactly this, that whenever somebody wants to know about it, we just explain it, by drawing an open circle. This meaning that this is how our brain is. It's not yet fully circled in the meaning of the subconscious mind. You just have, this the subconscious. It's not doing the full circle with the consciousness. This is what I meant. So it's just subconscious. So in these years, you behave like everything that you hear, you believe. Therefore, horses can fly, pigs can fly, everything can be, whatever. And they absorb. We are born like that because we need to learn. We need to learn how to behave in this world. We need to learn to be humane, in a society built by certain rules. We have no idea. And guess what? No child comes with a tag, at least with a tag, I say, or with a guide, with rules, how to raise it. You have no idea, not as a parent, nor the child itself. So we are basically somehow in a fog, not necessarily in a dark, because there are many books and tools, that you have to read, to prepare you. But still, you just have to follow your instinct. How is it to feel? What is it to feel? Who is teaching you this? You do not have to be taught. You just have to be led to express what you really are. So we are taught to become someone. We are taught to fit, but we do not understand how is it when we express our feelings, real feelings. And therefore, these, like I said before, like a volcano, because when you leave something behind under the carpet, it just puts there, a lot. It's like a closet with a lot of clothes that you don't use anymore. Okay? Like a volcano that it's growing and growing. And at some point, it's just, the beast is released. And this comes into anxieties, into a lot of stress, explosion and outbursts, that are consuming our lives. So whenever somebody, comes to me with this outburst of anxiety, or, I am depressed, for example, which is the so-called illness of this society. Okay, I'm depressed. Every single teenager now is depressed. What is depression? Depression is a lack of expressing. It's something that does not let you express your real self, your feelings. This is what I mean. So when you do not express your feelings, guess what? You will end up becoming this volcano. And at some point, you will come out. You will pop out, and it will become like taking and tearing down everything, like a fire, exactly, burning everything in your way. In order to prevent this, I would like to say to our listeners to hold on a little bit and to ask yourself, first thing in the morning still, what do I really feel? Now, always, you can go along the day and ask yourself, what do I really feel now in this moment? And calm yourself. If it is too much rage, if it is, that your boss or somebody is making you crazy, just take a little breath, yeah? How much can that take? 10 seconds? And ask yourself, what do I feel now? And when you acknowledge, when you embrace that feeling, it releases by itself. You do not need to do anything else. Resistance is the one that builds the block and makes this volcano erupt. So, emotions are there in order to be embraced, recognized.
And lived, right? We go back to the fact that the soul is here to experiment life. So emotion is a way of experimenting life, right? In all its.
If you want, it's your tool that the self has to operate in this so-called reality that wakes you up. It's like someone is always pulling your hand. You understand? Therefore, whenever we are in love, falling in love means I feel butterflies in my stomach. So why here? Well, populations like India, okay, great population, yeah? Even before the Hindus that we know now, they taught us that there are centers, energetic centers in our bodies that we call them chakras. Everybody knows about chakras now. Let's breathe from the chakras and all this stuff. So do it. Allow yourself to do this. They really help. Do whatever you know helps you. But remember one single thing. Embrace your emotion. Stop resisting it. Stop putting it in a closet. Because this will come with a bigger force, yes? And then it will erupt. And it will not be good at all.
So, because we haven't been used to talking about our feelings or even name them, we could say that there's a certain fear that we have, right? Like I feel rage, like I feel an emotion that is not a good emotion, so to say. And it's rage or whatever, frustration. And I feel that. And then I'm afraid to let it out, right? So this is fear that comes.
Mm-hmm.
How do we move past the fear so that we can let the emotion be? Because this is also important, right? If we are planning this, like if we are practicing it, we say, okay, so this might happen. My boss may get, mad with me for whatever reason, and I'm going to feel frustration, or I'm not going to feel understood or anything like that. How do we get past the fear of letting the emotion be? Because then the letting be happens really fast, right? An emotion will just, it just takes 90 seconds for any emotion to leave the body. But we just, because we're afraid, we're not letting it leave the body, which then inflates everything else. So how can we get past the fear?
This is a very good question because fear is the one that it's the villain, from the story of our life, of our reality. The villain in the closet, the villain in our life, it's always the one to be blamed, okay? But we need to understand one thing. Fear, it's not a belief, okay? Fear, it's there. It's basically a mechanism, a signal mechanism, okay, for our subcortical areas, like amygdala, for example, yes, like the brainstem, okay? And it's there, the only job of the fear is survival, okay? It's there to prevent the overwhelming for the nervous system, yes, the overwhelming in terms of, hello, this is something that we already passed through and it's going to overwhelm us. It's recognizing, yes, so it's like a protective shield, if you want. We do not want to overwhelm this time, so we are going to interfere. Now, to intervene, basically, not to interfere, to intervene. You see it as an interference, okay, that doesn't let you perform as the best version of yourself. But actually, fear, if you do really understand it from the psychological point of view, in neuroscience, we call, fear the friend. Me, at least, I call it my friend. Because when fear exists, it means that you are real, that your nervous system functions, okay, perfectly. When you don't feel fear, who are you? Well, even the actors, the greatest actors, they say that before a big performance, they feel that emotion, that fear, okay? And it's good because there is the good fear and there is the so-called the bad fear, okay? The terrifying fear, like the good cortisol and the bad cortisol, okay? So when too much cortisol, because this is what fear, does in your body, and adrenaline as well. So when there is too much of it, then It's exactly what we talk about. Yeah, the horrifying feeling. It's too much. So, in order to kind of befriend fear, which I would rather recommend, I will have to know how to trick my mind. Therefore, you see, the priming brain tools and all this stuff that we mentioned before, find friends that can help you trick yourself and ask yourself, what exactly this fear, it's hiding? Because there is always like a quality, if you want, that you are hiding behind that. For example, there are people that are afraid of heights. Why? There are people that are afraid of standing in front of an audience, yes, of performing and all this stuff, because there is something that you're hiding behind. It's defending the fear, yeah? So when you understand the root, when you understand that thing that the fear basically it's hiding, you name it, and then the fear is released. So simple. You just say that I don't need you anymore. Because by simply recognizing what is that quality, what is that thing that it's hiding, okay? Then you bring it in front. And this fear becomes your friend. I mean, you understand. It is never about overriding it, nor riding with the fear. You understand? Because it's like with that thing that comes a lot, on top of you. What do? It's not that you come, you fight it, because it will come even more. Okay? This is what it is. The system, when it feels, the nervous system, when it feels overload, yeah, then it comes even more. And then you feel drained out. Okay? So remember one thing. Fear, it's not a belief. Okay? It can be your friend. It all depends on what is that thing that it's hiding. Yeah? What's beyond? And when you release that, fear is not necessary anymore.
Perfect. What's how do practices like journaling, breath work, or visualization literally rewire your brain?
We just talked about priming brain, yeah? Priming the brain, these are tools, these are the friends, if you want. So what happens, let's take it like this, because I also wrote it, in my book, in my first book, The Inner Journey. And I gave it as a suggestion, if you want. What does it mean, journaling? What do you do when you're journaling? You write, which is a creative activity, whether you write about a story or not, whether you think that you may be a writer or not. It's something that, first of all, brings you into the moment, brings you in touch with you, with the deeper layers of the real you, with the so-called, that we just mentioned before, the original self. Why would you journal? Now, that's a good question you should ask yourself. Why would you need to journal? Because this can become, in time, your best friend. When you befriend yourself, you will find out that you do not need, and I may put a very big accent on need, okay? Anyone and anything else. It's not that you will be secluded, like living as a monk. No, you will discover who you really are. You will discover the immensity, the greatness of who you really are. This is what journaling may do. It may become your best friend, like the other tools that you just mentioned, yeah? So, if you give yourself time for yourself, when you write, you see, but you also have to keep coherence with what you write. And also it primes your brain by how? It's not necessarily bringing the past into the present, but it also opens from the window of the present the future. Because this is when you understand that proceeding the same way may not lead you to a different future. And this is when you may say, wait a little bit. So it makes you aware of whatever you feel, think, act. So do it. Just do it and you will see afterwards.
So, when it comes to journaling, many people think I'm going to spend half of my day writing about everything that happened the past day or whatever I want. So there are many ways in which people suggest that we do journaling. What's an effective way that you would recommend? I'm looking for the 20% effort that gives 80% of results, right? So, what is that in terms of journaling? Are there any prompts, like any questions? Do I start from somewhere so it doesn't go, or that my mind doesn't perceive that I'm going to spend the whole day doing it? And then I actually do it. Because with all of these, with breath work, with meditation, visualization, journaling, all of these fronts that we have, numerology, the biggest problem that we have is how do we fit them in our lives? Because just because I heard you talk today on YouTube and I think, wow, this is a great idea, I'm going to do it, it doesn't mean that my life opens itself by itself for me to do that thing. Like it's not
Absolutely.
going to show up in my calendar or somebody's going to call me and say, hey, it's time for your, remember when you saw that video on YouTube and decided that you want to journal? Now it's the time to journal. So this is why I'm looking for simple, short ways so that we start. Because then, 1 year later, you may decide to improvise, right? But as you start this habit of journaling, do you ask a few questions or do you have any prompts? So how do we start this journaling thing? Do we set up a timer?
I like it how you served it, because I believe in simple things and the brain works like that. We tend to complicate ourselves, and this is when we lose our point of view and we lose ourselves completely. So, simple, it's the easiest, and simple is the most effective. Like the positive thinking, it's not enough. You can think as much as you want, you can say all kind of positive affirmations. If you do not feel it, simple as good morning, yeah? If you do not feel the real good morning, you will not have the same response. So, in terms of journaling, I never mentioned about journaling what you have done in the past day, in the past week, in the past whatever. Journaling has to be a simple activity that will not require time or extra time. And it's not supposed to put more anxiety, much more stress, to build more stress. So, there is no script, there is nothing. Just write what you feel, whenever you feel. If you have a thought right now that, oh my God, I don't know what to do, just take your agenda from your phone. You do not need to have it, to write it like this, okay? Like we used to do it. Now you have a phone. Just write it somewhere. Just make a picture of something. Okay, now I thought about something and I look and I make an anchor, yeah, about what I was thinking. Make a picture of, I don't know, for example, here I have a cup. I make a picture of that cup. And then when I look at that picture, I was thinking about that. And when you will have a little bit of time, you can write about what you are thinking and you can let yourself from that anchor onwards to flow for a minute, for 2 minutes, for how long it's comfortable for you to write about. But do not hold back and do not wait for the perfect script. Do not stay and wait like, how should I start? And wait for rules, let's say. There is no rule that can tell you the best way to journal, that can tell you the best way to visualize, the best way to positive thinking. Just let yourself feel. And I believe that the best word to describe this is be in the now. And that's it. Just start doing it.
Perfect. Complete the sentence. Transformation is.
The mother of learning, it's one word you want. Transformation is the only thing that exists. It's movement itself. It's life itself.
Also that, huh?
Absolutely. You know what they say? The only constant in the universe is movement. Movement means constant transformation.
What's the biggest myth in spirituality right now?
Spirituality in itself. And I cannot say it enough. Many years back, when we were talking about religion, And because I've studied a lot also in university, and it became kind of a hobby of mine, I always start from the root. What does it mean, religion? Relicve, relicvare, yeah. So when you go to the root, and remember, this is a technique that you should adopt, everybody should adopt. When we understand the root, then it's so simple. Everything becomes simple. Then it appeared, in philosophy, when I was, in university, in classes, one of the assistants came and said, Lori, today I'm going to demonstrate that you are on the side of the devil. I'm like, you're a lunatic. Why would I be on the side? Why would you want to do that? What did I do to you? 20-something years old, even 20, I don't remember exactly how old I was, but it was like, why? A shock. What does he have with me? I mean, why me? There is a book written by Denis de Rougemont, and it's called The Side of the Devil. And it starts brutally, but with triumph. God says, I am. But the devil comes and says, I do not exist. So how can you believe in something that it's inexistent? How can you believe in nothingness? And then he proceeds in the book, and he continues with, the address of the devil is you in your own chair. Now, 20-something years back, and I still remember it till this day. Can you imagine what an impact that had on me? And what does this tell you? That the human being is in the same time, and it has the choice to be the greatest architect of his own life, but also the greatest destroyer. That we can believe in whatever the world, the society, the current is telling us, yes, or we can't, or we don't. Or I can choose to have my own opinions. It's like that thing when you are born with a specific talent, and each and every one has it, even if you don't know it. Like an artist, you're born, you know that you can draw. You go, you study, you do a lot of studies, yes? And you end up almost in the end of your days, and you draw a simple line on a huge painting. And that's all. And people come and stare, and they are like in their awe. And everything else that you were drawing before fades in front of this unique line. So what is this? And I learned that spirituality, religion, whatever it is served on our table with persistence, loses its sense when it is not experienced. And nobody can talk out of pure theory unless theory marries experience. It doesn't become knowledge. And this was demonstrated after I became a mom. And I said, everything I know, psychology is hyper, super duper, okay? I will teach my child. I tried for 2, 3, 4 years. When my daughter put the hand in front of me and said, stop, it's enough, I got shocked. Because you see, experience is the one that enforces or makes the theory, I dare to say. It's the experience that gives birth to theory. Therefore, spirituality in its raw sense, in its real, true, deep, and profound meaning, gives birth to science. And nowadays, we have science coming and telling us, yes, we confirm what once upon a time the great philosophers, they were called philosophers, yeah? Once upon a time, they were coming to think, to postulate, just with half of a mouth, But nowadays, more and more people from these scientific territories, even in the outskirts of neuroscience, they come and they confirm even the fact that we do not have just 5 senses. That we are usually served with these 5 senses. Yes, but there are many more. And I can give you here now a name, Dr. Tara Swart. She made like a task of her life in the past years after her husband died to discover what and how we can communicate with people after life, with the dear ones, breaking all rules, breaking all that we knew in science, that there is only what is palpable, what is touchable, what it is seeable, if I may say like that, hearable. So whatever our five, six senses, even the intuitive voice, yes? So it's far beyond that. And there are people that they are channeling. They do that for ages. So how is this? We always marginalize them. We always, demonize them. Many were put to fire. They were burned, yes, alive, witches and all this stuff. So what is real? What is the reality? Which are the boundaries? And what is the real spirituality of nowadays? These questions can never be answered in one correct answer. Again, I go back, to my dear Socrates. Whenever you find an answer, ask yourself, is this the final answer? Because therefore we are here to experience, to make, if you want, this loop over and over up until we understand. There is nothing nailed in a nail and that's it. Because as we said before, the only constant in the universe is the change, the movement, the transformation.
What is one thing everyone misses about inner power?
The power itself, the inner power itself. Okay? What is inner power? And when do you have your own power? Starting with the question, who am I? Who am I for real? And when you will find out who you really are, and this will take you a lifetime, the only thing that can help you is to be authentic, to decide, to take this decision. I am going to be me today, the authentic me, and be like that for 24 hours, even when you sleep. Okay? And then you will find out the real inner power that will purely and simply undress everyone in front of you.
In 5 words, transformation begins when
You know who you really are. You find your authenticity. You make this connection with you, meaning with the source, okay? You let go and you keep it simple.
So that's why they actually say that the devil is in the details, right? Because
Oh,
then you
yes.
complicate
Oh,
everything.
yes. Oh, yes, yes. The more you tend to complicate things, the more you go further from the original, from the origins, from the root, if you want.
Tell me a few words about the Inner Journey Academy. Why you created it? What's its purpose?
Because I see the need. Nowadays, and I want to talk a little bit about the new year that is coming, because it's not just a simple year. And I will tell you also because this has to do with the inner journey as well. It is an inner journey that we are invited to take from this year onwards. 2026, it's not just a first year, a 1 year in numerology, if you want, but it's the year that gives the tone to a new spiral, I may call it, because nothing is linear. Okay? So this new 9 levels or 9 steps, 9 tones of a spiral, okay, will set a different tone, will give a new, or it's already imprinting a new code. And if you do not ride with it, okay, if you do not take this journey, you will be left out. Because if we used to think and manifest in days, weeks, I don't know, now we will manifest almost instantly. This new era, we do not know now with what to compare it, because we do not have necessarily something written, about what it used to be when it was something like that before. So it's also from the point of view of the Chinese culture, the philosophy, as I like to call it, because these may be, a much better approach. It's the fire horse. Yes, the ear of the Chinese numerology, astrology, if you want to call it. Yes, it's an energy of freedom, of letting go, of make things simple, but only after you make the connection with yourself. So here we go. The starting point of the Inner Journey Academy is you. The ones that are ready, the ones that are authentically saying, yes, I do. Yes, I do for what? Yes, I do for the new spiral. Yes, I do for the new codes. Yes, I do for the new life I want to allow and choose for myself. Then yes, these 9 steps, 9 notes are going to invite you in this academy for a beautiful journey. Because I am not promising anything as an exchange, as a school script, let's put it like this, that forms new yous. No. My academy promises one thing: remembrance. Remember who you really are. You don't even need to do anything, but remember. Because you know who you are. You just need to remember. Like an onion, or like a cabbage that when we take, leaf after leaf, or like a lotus, much better said, because that's the symbol of my academy. You unveil layers from you, and you allow yourself to discover within this academy who you really are. Yes, I will be there for you as a guide, but no more than that. I am not imposing theories, rules to anyone. There are basic rules, and these rules apply to all that is. Multiverses, realities, whatever you want to call it. One of it is the law of, this so much commented about, the law of abundance, I call it right now. Okay, but it is like what you sow, that's what you'll reap. You cannot expect something different if you do the same things over and over. You cannot expect to reap good results, okay, if you are just thinking positively, affirming, visualizing without the real you, without the real feeling, without investing. That's why I mention all these tools. If you are to do anything without participating, without implication, total implication, better don't do it. It's just a waste of time. That's why many people come and say, journaling doesn't work. Visualization doesn't, it's just bullshit. Because they do not do it authentically. If you do something 100% there, like when you're a mother, for example, you cannot do it 20%. You are a mother if your child cries and you do not feed it or you do not give it what it needs. It will cry up until you will die, but it will cry. You cannot just sleep and that's it. It's like everything in life. If you do not give importance, full, total involvement into something, then the results will be the same. And this new spiral that comes, it will mirror it back to us. This is what all these tools are. Because you see, when you look in a mirror and you see a grimace, you do not go to change the grimace, you change yourself.